So up at the Brawl Suite, there's been a presentation to people involved in social care in the Isle of Man. Cormac is here, who's come over, and we'll come to you in a second. Julia Edge is here, and with I think a bit of your post office, but mostly social housing is the area of interest on this part, because you're in housing, right?
Yes, yeah, that's right, Paul. I've met Cormac before, and we've, in his talks with regard to asset-based community development, and housing is a big important part within communities and villages, and people that live in particularly if we talk social housing, they need to be involved in their communities and the development of their areas.
Okay, well, more than a minute. I should say Quing's brought you over, the mental health charity. So who are you talking to? What were you giving them that they need to know?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of what we were talking about is just this idea of building community from the grassroots up, and really restoring some sense of connectedness in our communities. A lot of our communities have become very, very disconnected places, and there's a strong history on the Isle of Man of the idea it takes a village to raise a child, and most other things that matter in life. So that's what we've been talking about and trying to figure out how we could invest in.
Interesting, because we don't have high-rise blocks of ghetto flats and that sort of thing, but I know I think Janet's Corner was an old model and that was rebuilt. Is that sort of thing you're talking about?
Yes, because Janet's Corner, when it was redeveloped, it's created a better environment for the people. There's more green open space, and it's more of a community approach rather than just the traditional let's build houses and have pathways that join people up now, rather than the old traditional models there was houses, there was pavements, but it didn't necessarily join them into green space and things like that. So I think that's a real progressive way forward with any housing developments, whether it be social housing or in the private sector. It's a good approach to.
And you had a look around the Isle of Man, you've seen our housing?
Yeah, well, this is my third visit, so as well as housing, I think we're just thinking about the wider environment, thinking about the economy, we're thinking about a whole range of things. 20% of the people who go to GP surgeries on the island are not biomedically ill, they're lonely. So we're thinking about that. We're thinking about people who've been pushed to the edge, maybe because they have a label like disability or mental health. How do we see them as also having gifts to give, rather than just slapping a label on them, putting them in a service? So it's very much thinking beyond institutionalising and services, and thinking, how do we actually create a society where everybody is welcome, everybody is seen as having something to contribute and is brought into the conversation and, the possibilities.
And you have the answers to it.
Well, I think the communities have the answers. That's the point, So it's what I have is the questions, and actually questions bring people together. Answers actually divide us. And the problem is that we've had so many top-down answers and agencies coming at communities, siloing communities, dealing with older people over here and younger people over here and people with disabilities over here. And it's not an answer. It's a different way of thinking. And it's saying, well, why do we always need to start with what's wrong, when in fact there's so much that's strong within our communities? And if we started there and actually trusted that they had the answers, so the people who live in the situations are the people who probably understand the context better than anybody, and having a top-down solution probably doesn't work.
And did you learn much today?
I always learn when I listen to Cormac. It's my second occasion, and I've picked something up different again today. I think one of the areas that I'm extremely interested in, and one of the areas I came into politics for really, is community hubs, and looking at particularly where I live in Onken, it's a very strong community spirit, but it's how do you bring those hubs together? And I could be putting my post office hat on here as chairman of the post office. It's a community hub, but then you also have the local authorities. We're still very local authority based on the island, and it's bringing all of that together that make people feel they can be involved in their communities and village life. And we all have church halls, and there's lots of activity going on, but it's not necessarily reaching everybody or making people feel. Some people would move into a new community, and on the island, where I feel we've always been very welcoming. There's not many actual local Manx people on the island now, very welcoming, but I've also met people that have come from different communities, and they don't necessarily knock on their new next door neighbour's door, and it's trying to create that environment again that I was brought up in, and I think a lot of people would welcome it. So.
Some people would stagger that we have any problems at all, small little friendly island, but is that in itself a problem then? communities of the size they are not getting out and about?
I often say that community is a verb, not a noun. So you do community. So even if you don't have a problem, the challenge is how do we actually create the conditions within which neighbours can connect with each other comfortably. And I think increasingly, for a lot of different reasons, people are working longer hours, people are on screens more now. There's a lot of different things that kind of press against people's time and maybe take them away from the community. What we're trying to do is figure out how, in the world we live in now, rather than looking back with rose-tinted glasses and on the Isle of Man now, how do we support people to make those connections in an easy way and in a way that gives them a good life? You know, one of the things that's a feature of ageing on the Isle of Man is that dementia is a real issue. Most people are saying they want to live in their homes for as long as possible. That's a community challenge as much as a public health challenge. So we have to think about how to support communities to build stronger and get more connected. You know, and that's what we're trying to work on.
Website for more information on this?
Yeah, so the website is www.nurturedevelopment.org. And there's a lot of resources there on how to build community and stories about different communities building from the grassroots up.